Zia-us Salam's book of Saffron Flags and Skullcaps, Hindutva, Muslim Identity, and the Idea of India. We have here a very eminent panel to talk about the book. Let me begin with welcoming our chief guest first, Dr. Hamid Ansari, the Honorable former Vice President of India. He has served as an Indian ambassador and as chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Professor Ansari was Vice Chancellor of the Aligarh Muslim University and visiting professor in the West Asian and African Studies Department of JNU and the Third World Studies Department of Jamia Millia Islamia University.
Zia-us Salam Sahab, a very distinguished panel sitting here, and friends. Let me correct a general misimpression. I am not a doctor.
Nor am I.
Now, having got over that, I want to draw attention to the cover page of the book and to two expressions used there: flags and skull caps. To the best of my understanding, the creator, by whatever name you like to call it, created the universe and therefore created the colors in the universe. And again, there is no prioritization between holy colors, less holy colors, or unholy colors. So, choice of colors is a matter of individual choice or a group choice or society's choice. And nothing more than that. And down the ages, society's kings, army commanders have used colors of different kinds to motivate. I don't know what the color of Genghis Khan's army was, but it was certainly very emotive. He conquered half the world. And so on and so forth. So you can have a black banner, you can have a white banner, green banner, red banner, yellow banner, saffron banner, and the rest of the colors in the spectrum. Now the second part is about caps. I confess I am fond of caps and I am also a collector of caps. So I have collected caps from all over the world wherever I have had a chance to go. East, west, north, south. And at least in winter months I use them also. But to the best of my recollection, there is only one occasion when I put on a skull cap. And this is something which my old colleague and friend Mr. Iyer will approve or disapprove of vehemently. I was India's ambassador to United Nations, and I was invited to a very special dinner by my Israeli colleague. The occasion was the formal agreement between the State of Israel and the United Nations, for which the then Prime Minister of Israel had come to New York. And my Israeli counterpart had given a dinner very selectively for his Prime Minister, the Secretary General of United Nations, and a handful of people. I was amongst that lot. Now we were seated on round tables, and before the dinner began, the ambassador's daughter or granddaughter, a little girl of 9 or 10 years, came into the room to recite the traditional Jewish prayer before food. And everybody, or most people present there was a skull cap in the soup plate, and they put on the cap on their heads. So I just looked at my left and my right, and there were eminent members of the Israeli political establishment there. They put on the cap and I did likewise. Now when the prayer was over and dinner began, the gentleman to my left said, "You need not have." And I said, "I don't see the problem. It doesn't in any way impinge on my identity, this way or that." So the point that I want to make is that a cap does not add to identity. And any suggestion that is made that a cap signifies an identity is perhaps a misperception, perhaps a reflection of bigotry. Now, having said that and having gone through most of the book, I think this is a very seriously written book, a very carefully written book, and a book which has been written with an, I can only call it an innovative approach. The author has not written one long, consistent academic narrative of one side of the story or the other side of the story. He has cherry-picked, but cherry-picked in a very deliberate manner, happenings, episodes, practices, and tried to wield them into a pattern. And then, having determined that there were two dominant patterns in our society, he comes back to the third, the most important pattern, which is India. What is the idea of India? I think all of us are, in our own individual ways, debating this seriously, intensely, and with a great deal of practicality. Because what is India? What is the soul of India? Has it got somewhere into a quagmire, unable to assert itself? Is not a theoretical challenge, it's a practical challenge for everybody who's an Indian. And the quest of that soul to establish itself is what is the challenge of the day in our society today. The author has dealt with it very well. He brings out this quest of the soul and the fact that the soul shall, optimism of the will always prevails over the pessimism of the intellect. So whatever the intellect might guide us into, it is the human will that will ultimately prevail. And this book will certainly help the process to all those who bother to read it. I would like to make a suggestion to the author. I think the book needs to be read widely. And to help that process, it needs to be translated into different languages, or at least some of the 100-odd languages of our country, so that it reaches a great many more people. I wish him all success in this. Thank you very much.
Salam to everybody. First of all, until this evening, rather till 5 minutes back, I knew Manisha was a kind soul. One fine evening, she met me at the World Book Fair and prevailed upon me to push this project through as soon as I could. And if this book is with me in my hand today, and it is with many of you by now, I think the entire credit goes to Manisha and the SAGE team. But today, she has proved she's also generous. But the thing is, when you are generous, you are also likely to err, as Manisha has just erred while introducing me. I've been associated with the Hindu for 18 long years, and the first person whom I met in the Hindu and the person who is here today, That's Dr. Nirmala Lakshman. And she's been kind enough to come for the launch today. She was in London and she specifically cut short her visit to be here with us. I'm grateful. And the person who changed the way I thought of Islam. Like many kids in the city, I had been brought up with certain notions of Islam that you got to pray 5 times a day and you got to fast in the month of Ramzan and you got to give zakat, blah, blah, blah. It never went too far long. Then one fine day, I met Dr. Aslam Parvez, and through his simple words and even more simple demeanor, he opened a new world of Islam to me, wherein I could identify with the specific verses of the Quran. And today I am grateful that he has come all the way from Hyderabad for our discussion today, for our launch today. Thanks a lot, Dr. Aslam Parvez, today. Before I go on to anything else, I think I need to be more than just grateful to Dr. Hamid Ansari. The reason is I had met Dr. Hamid Ansari fleetingly in New Delhi Jama Masjid. He would often come there to offer prayers, particularly in Ramzan when the Quran Sharif would be completed, or in Eid or any other special occasions. But on all those occasions, I remembered him. He never remembered me. Understandably so, because there were about 1,000 people, and he was one vice president of India. But one fine day, when I spoke to him, and he readily agreed to release this book today, and I went to meet him. It was a very brief meeting, maybe for 20 minutes or so. But in those 20 minutes, I realized that I've got another reason to be grateful to Allah, because he agreed to release this book without really thinking for too long, and he was kind enough to host me and also kind enough to write some good words to Sage about it. Thanks a lot, sir. And obviously this book would not have been possible but for this gentleman, Mr. Vivek Mehra. Again, courtesy my legendary ignorance, I had never met him earlier. But God gives you a chance to dispel your ignorance. So today I got a chance to meet him, and I hope I get many chances to meet him from here on. And I'm grateful to each of the panelists over here, starting with the extreme right, Dr. Apurva Anand, who was generous enough to come for our previous launch also. And with him is Professor Sajjad of AMU. I often pick his brains. In fact, as I do with Professor Aditya Mukherjee of JNU for some of the writers which I do for Frontline. Many of the readers say, "Wah, Zia, kya likha, maza aa gaya," padh ke after they read Frontline. The fact is I'm only using my pen. The brains are of Dr. Mukherjee or of Dr. Sajjad. Thankful to both of you. And with us is Mr. Mani Shankar Iyer. I guess it is something like a dream come true for me. Not because he's a politician, but because I read his column very diligently, very religiously on ndtv.com. And there has never been one occasion when I have not come back wiser for reading the column. It's a great honor to be on the same panel with Dr. Mani Shankar Iyer today for me. And obviously there's good, not old, good young friend, Maria Shakil. She's generous to a fault. And she's hyper busy. She has a show in the evening, but she has been kind enough to make some allocation for our discussion today, though I guess she might have to leave early due to her commitments. But what has been shining through all through my brief interaction with Maria is her commitment to the right word, to say the right things irrespective of the consequences. And I guess that is something which all of you who watch her show would have realized as well. It is not often that she would endear herself to friends, but then she says the things as they ought to be. Before I conclude, just two very small things. Please indulge me a little bit here. One is Dr. Asaf Saeed Wasfi, who happens to be my father-in-law. But he was kind enough, he was really ailing, and he was almost on his bed, but he was kind enough to read the first half of this book. And I've dedicated this book to him, not because he read that first half, but for the last 18 years, he has been helping me to hone my understanding of Indian politics and also understanding of Islam. Grateful. Finally, each one of you who has come here, I think I need to say thanks to everybody, not because you are here, but because life gives all of us so many options. There are so many things at any particular time which are happening. So to make this function a priority today, I think I can't thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoy the discussion today and go back wiser for it. Thank you.